Hello, and thanks for joining us today on this Making Flexible Working Work webinar, which is proudly brought to you by the Flexagility Group and Rowdy Digital. My name is Vanessa Vanderhoek, and I'm the founder of Flexible Working Day, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Nicole Kettniss and Rebecca Pooley, who are passionate job share pair, if I can say it like that. Rebecca and Nick have been working together for over 15 years in a variety of organisations, but over the last 5 years, they've been a successful job share career pair. There's a lot of words in there. And we're very excited to hear today about how you make it work. Nick and Beck have worked together in a couple of roles, and most recently they applied for a new role as a job share pair. So today we look forward to hearing all about how you both make it work. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Vanessa. Thank you. Thanks for having us, Vanessa. Okay,
and
so going to come.
Nick, before we go on, Beck and Nick are both proud Flexible Working Day ambassadors. Thank you very much for your commitment and passion to supporting the day.
Thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, it's an awesome initiative and we are truly very passionate about it. So thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Oh, you're most welcome. And these two amazing ladies and Rowdy Digital are the proud supporters of the Champions of Flexible Working Day Awards, which the winners will be announced today as well. So over to you, Nick and Beck. Tell us, what is your job share pitch?
Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is broadly three things: our job share story, our job share pitch. What are the benefits for the employer and the employee? Because it does have to work best for the business and the individual. It's not something that people do as a favour. It actually makes perfect sense for a business to do this as well. And the most common question we get, Beck, is, yeah, but how does it work? How does it actually work? And people really want to get into the detail of how it works in every day for us and how we've made it work long-term as a partnership throughout a number of jobs. So that's what we're going to cover today, and I'll get Beck to start on our story and our pitch.
Yeah, cool. So just moving on to sort of our story, it's an interesting one because a lot of people ask what job share actually is when you say job share, and I guess it's definitely not part-time. So it's a full-time job shared between two people. Mm-hmm. And so we truly are one and the same person here. And that's the way we like to operate because we complement each other in a number of different ways in the everyday. And so I suppose our job share story is that we were both mothers. We became mothers and we decided the way that we wanted to do it was actually be at home a couple of days a week and work a couple of days a week. And Nicole and I were actually working together at the time, and the opportunity came up to actually job share in a marketing management role within a not-for-profit. And we started there, and then this is our third job share role, actually, latest one being at Rowdy Digital. So I might actually talk a little bit about what we did in our second job share role. So we moved on from the not-for-profit and we just decided that we didn't want to work full-time, like it wasn't that time of our life where we were able to work full-time. And we just went about finding a place that would accommodate us. And it wasn't as easy as it sounds because typically the story of job share pairs is that they are working together within an organisation and the opportunity comes up. But what we did is we pitched for one full-time role, the two of us. And that, it was a full-time role. So we actually went through the whole process of 2 applications, putting together a package that was about us, that showed off our strengths, why we thought that job share would work.
Separate interviews, so separate interviews and separate rooms.
Wow.
But again, going back to that point about it needs to be good for the business, we absolutely went in there like a pitch. Why we're great, why you need us, why this is good for your business, so that again we demonstrated why job share works for them as an employer. And it's not something they'd ever thought about at that point, and certainly at that level for that job.
Yeah.
And let's face it, it's hard enough to apply for a job, isn't it, on your own, and to sell yourself and what you're great at. For you ladies to come together and say, right, let's do this, you must have invested some time in planning and putting together that quality application. And just going back to that, so you put in 2 applications, 1 each. Is that right?
Correct, but we also put together a pitch, if you like. So it was a marketing document, well designed, it looked beautiful, it sounded beautiful, about why Kettniss. So again, examples of why it was great for the business, what we bought, and we'll go through some of those benefits to the employer later, but certainly recognising we were going for a business growth role, and so we had to look schmick, sound schmick in everything we did to get us across the line.
Wow,
congratulations.
And you got the job.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So no, and we included case studies, and so we kind of, like, if you think about a CV, we kind of amped it up another level, and really just kind of had to sell what job share and why the benefits of it in one document, and then go through that normal HR processes, showing that we were indeed the right people for the job and had the skill set as well.
Good on you. Congratulations. Let's learn more about how you did it.
Yeah, well, it was interesting and fun at the same time, wasn't it? So we'll probably talk a little bit about the employer benefits now, because it obviously, I might throw to you for this one, Nick.
Okay. Look, there's 2 sides. If you've already got someone who's perhaps returning to work, or perhaps wants to step down because they're close to retirement, perhaps they want to study. I mean, there's a whole range of reasons why people may want a job share. At the end of the day, you retain someone great, a great person within your team that otherwise may have gone. So, for example, in our case, if we wanted a part-time job and that wasn't available, that employer would have lost our knowledge and skills altogether.
Absolutely.
And then the other side is when you go to attract people. If you can honestly say as an employer, we are flexible, we actively have job share arrangements in place, then when you're in a position where you've got to attract candidates, then that's another positive for you as an employer of choice. And did you want to cover the next?
Yeah, and you see that we've got on the screen there, 1 + 1 = more than 2. And that was something that we gathered through our own experience in terms of when we worked together in job share, we knew that we produced more than the output of just one person. So we were the full-time equivalent of 1 at the time in our previous role, but we just knew that the efficiency of 2 of us working together produced more output than you would have got from 1 person. And there's a number of reasons for that, which we'll probably cover in the next section when we're talking about their benefits to the employee. But really the employer gets, 2 networks, if you like, as well. If you're in a business development role, 2 lots of networks. And moving on to the next point, problem solving capacity. Nicole and I together, we were able to nut out problems that you wouldn't have the capacity if you're one marketing person, for example, within an organization. It's just you. You've got no one else to talk to. But the 2 of us together would often have different ways of looking at things, and therefore you're getting a much more strategic solution than you would with just one person trying to do it on their own.
We often hear, Beck, just on that point, that from employers and managers saying it costs too much. It's too much time in handing over. And then when you look at systems like our health system, where job share is the way how it works, isn't it? You don't have a nurse there 24 hours looking after you. There's always that handover. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? The benefits to me seem like they far outweigh any cost as far as handover or any other associated costs. What's been your experiences?
I think there's a number of ways to look at it. You have to be good at having systems in place to make sure that the handover works, and you have to be really good at communicating. But it's the same in any team. If you're working within a team, you have to communicate effectively anyway. So it really is down to the individual to manage their workload, to manage the communication within the team. So handover to us is just keeping good records, and you should be doing that anyway if you're working on your own. So it's not really anything groundbreakingly new to have someone actually communicating with another team member. Nick, would you like to add anything on that?
Well, I think also any perceived cost outweighs the benefit as far as what two people bring. So what I mean by that is we are both invited to strategic planning workshops. For example, we've both got different skills. We've both got different knowledge base. We have different levels of creativity. There's all those things where at the end of the day, you're getting two brains for the price of one.
Yeah.
So there's always, in those organisations we've worked, it's like, Nick and Beck, can you both come to this strategic planning session today? Can you? And the next point there too is accountability and increased productivity is something that we absolutely feel. So what I mean by that is if you're having a bad day, oh, well, I'll just leave that till the morning, or I'm going to go and get a coffee because I can't cope with this at the moment. Everybody has those lulls in their work. We have very little of that because I think, I can't leave that for Beck till the morning. I've just got to get that done now.
Yeah.
So that accountability to each other also increases productivity significantly because we don't want to let the other one down through poor performance. So where you might think, I'm just going to go home early because this is not working at the moment, you just stick it out. Or maybe you'll go home and then log in back later that night and work through till 10 or 11 midnight to get something done so it's not on Beck's desk in the morning and vice versa.
Yeah.
So
Nick, I heard you say a couple of times that, the strengths of each of you and what you bring, even your working styles are different. And it's that way about how you communicate and how you actually make it work. And I think, working with you both on these awards, Nick, you were saying how, sometimes you do like the detail and you like to get in, but you structure the work to suit each other's skills and strengths. To me, it just seems like a no-brainer. It seems fantastic.
It works really well for us. And certainly at our last job, we were told we weren't sure what to expect, but you've actually delivered exactly what you said you would deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think that the next couple of points are just really about, I guess, you working at an organisation that truly does value job share and value you as people creates a loyalty that you just, and that is just pretty priceless. Any loyalty to any organisation, you've got to hold on to that. And for us, we've always had a really strong feeling of loyalty to the organisations that have offered us these opportunities, seen it as a benefit to them, which really leads to hard work. And you'll work really hard to get the outcome for them.
And then the final point there is about coverage. So what the employer will also get is, say, for example, Beck's going away on annual leave, I'll up my hours to cover for her days. Mm-hmm. We used to travel a lot in one of our previous roles. So Beck and I would again say, look, I can't do that day. Do you mind picking up my day to travel to Melbourne for that meeting? And on top of that, there's also a capacity to increase, is that if you had a really busy end of financial year or a proposal due, there's often capacity for people to amp up beyond the equivalent of one full time. So it does give the employer more coverage than just one person.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it doesn't need to be always, like you said, but it's in those times where you do need to have that capacity. How fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a benefit that obviously many of us haven't thought of.
Yeah, and I mean, the other side, moving on to sort of us and the benefits that we found over the 3 roles that we've had, I don't know, many conversations I've had with other women that are returning to work, and they've told me stories about how that they have gone back to work in a role that is not at the level they were at before, and they've taken roles just because they purely give them the hours that work for them. Now that's okay, but I think a lot of people don't really consider that they can come back in and maintain that level that they're at, or indeed progress. And so I guess that's one of the reasons why we're such passionate ambassadors of flexible working, is because for us, we've been able to maintain our career and move into other industries, rather than just saying, oh, well, I'll just settle for this. We wanted to be challenged. We wanted to take on big roles, and we were able to do that. And so for job share, you can do that. So that to us is super important. In terms of support and accountability, Nick, you kind of covered that a little bit about how we kind of really just don't want to let each other down. And we do that, like we'll take on the hard issues that day, not put it off, because we have to feel loyalty to each other, and we'll work really, really hard to get that done that particular day for Nicole, or vice versa.
And the other side of that is the personal support that we give each other. So quite often, if you're, for example, in a marketing role, we had a marketing team with us, but no one else at our level. So we were able to have that personal support as well. Checking in, how you going? What do you think of this idea? I've had this issue come up. So it's really great to have, you almost have that mentor every day that you work with, who knows your job intimately, knows the challenges, and can help you out. Yeah. So that's another really great personal support benefit for an employee. Yeah. Yeah.
And look, I think,
is it like a marriage? So you go have ups and downs and
well, it definitely is. In fact, I was just only saying how we really don't have to bring home many work issues, because we talk to each other often on the way home from work, and just all the time, and just have a bit of a debrief, like, and that's sort of what makes it work, is because you sort of just cover things off with each other and run things past each other all the time. So
we miss each other.
We do miss each other.
From each other for days.
I love it. So I suppose for you both, it's been about trying to work through what are the boundaries around, has that been a challenge over the years, or is it just evolved?
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to talking specifically about boundaries, because you're absolutely right, that's important as well.
Yeah, and it has evolved. I think the answer to your question, it has evolved. For us, we haven't really sat down and gone, right, this is what we do and don't do, but it has definitely evolved. Yeah. Yeah. But I laugh about that. Nick and I had this conversation about, does it give you balance, work-life balance? And we just said, no, we're not putting work-life balance in this presentation, because it doesn't exist. It's really just about making life work for you. And we both have separate, our children are different ages, but we've been able to work out what works for us. And, you can't do that if you're working full-time and you choose to be home with your children as well. So definitely it's about, job share for us has made us be able to prioritise the life how we want it, which is great.
So I need to ask another question, which I have no doubt many people are thinking, is like, do you plan your next job or career stage together? Do you sit down over a coffee or a wine and say, right, where are we off to? Or is it just opportunity presents itself and you run?
Oh, I think we have to tell a funny story about that. And that is, in a previous role, someone said, what was it? They said, well, what happens if Beth goes? And Nick said, well, then I go. If Beth goes, I go.
Which is, isn't it, to the employers and managers out there? You want to keep both people happy.
Sorry, Vanessa.
No, you go.
The other one, when we were actively looking for another role, the first time we were pitching ourselves as job share, is we also had to stick to the unity of our team. Yeah. So Beck individually was offered roles and said, no, not without Nick. Yeah. I individually was offered part-time roles, and I said, well, no, that's not how I work. I need a full-time job, and Beck comes with me. And people would ask, would you come without Beck? Would you consider? And we said no. No.
So we have to
really stay true.
There's definitely a loyalty to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I said to you, Vanessa, the other day, I've had people say to me, I don't know if I'm going to ever find a job that's really going to be the level I want and as challenging I want and working around what I want. But I said, of course you can. And like Nick and I are proof of it. We've followed each other around in different roles throughout our career because we like working with each other. And when you find someone that you like working with, you want to work with them. Yes. So there are ways to do it. Yeah.
I think that's another great strength or benefit that you haven't got on here, is around your health and wellness from being with each other.
We are friends, and that is the other thing. We're really, really close friends. So for us, it is we get to work together with your mate. So that's really, it is. It definitely does help our health and well-being.
Wow.
Sure.
A few quick other points on here, obviously, is that we can you can see we're different people, but in fact on the disc profile we are the exact same profile, which is really interesting. However, Nick's got a little bit of different shading on that, if you know that profile, and so that means that we have different strengths. And Nick knows my weaknesses, and she knows my strengths, and we vice versa, and we work to them, and we really have there's no issues there. It's like we know everything about each other, so you just work within that. Yeah.
You know what I love working with you both is you're both very open about where your strengths lie, and you say, right, this is how I work and this is how you're going to get the best, out of this working relationship. I found just working together with you on the awards, and, we can all learn from that, can't we? Within our own teams, even if we're not in job share, just saying, hey, this is how I contribute and this is how I bring my best self to work. But we don't do it. It was a good learning for me. How open.
Yeah, no. It is being confident enough and vulnerable enough to go, Beck, you do this. I'm not good at this at all. And
it's those two words, isn't it? It's confident and vulnerability. And I think you're in a safe space, working together in a beautiful, safe organisation. And a lot of us, haven't been privileged to have that. But, you sharing your story, definitely, I have no doubt, is going to help many people, even myself, in sharing what my strengths are and how I can bring my best self to work. So thank you. Now I'm about halfway through.
And so this is the most common question we get is, how does it actually work? So Beck touched on our disc profile, compatibility. So, and what we mean by that is not only that personal profiling about you being similar, whether it be Myers-Briggs or DISC or any of those, but obviously similar values. You spoke about us being honest and open. That is absolutely one of both our foundations and personal drivers. Mm-hmm. So you need to be compatible. And also if you're sharing a space, you also need to be pretty compatible. So for example, someone who loves messy desk, eating an egg over there, I'm not mentioning your egg. Then you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, Nicole doesn't like that I eat eggs sometimes, but she's really tolerant of me.
Look, you couldn't have sharing a desk, for example, policy with someone who was extremely neat and organised and someone who wasn't. So there's some key things that you need to be on really together and aligned with. And we are very compatible. So we're very honest when people ask us to talk, how does job share work? Is in that matching, you absolutely have to get that right at the start. Yeah. You can't just say, these two people who do a job, let's put them together, because it won't work. It absolutely won't work. It needs to be compatible. And I think, Vanessa, you spoke about why some employers say it doesn't work. I think there's a lot of bad examples of bad matching. Yeah. And that's one of the factors as why it's just been incredibly hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think what you've offered as far as going as a pair and applying has been almost like a, if I can use that term, that no-brainer for a business to go, you know what, here they are as a pair already, rather than saying, okay, well, here's one person, how do I match them with someone else, which is another level of administrative challenge for many companies.
Yeah, look, I do think it's possible. Like, I'm pretty optimistic. I think you could do that. I just think that it's to be conscious of that. Like, there will be a level of matching that has to happen. It's not going to be just, chuck two people together, like Nick said.
Yeah, you made it easy for them. Let's face it, all those benefits that you've put on the previous slides.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the funny stories we tell too is many times in our career when we've been working together, we'd have people opinion shop. Was on Nick's day, ask Nick a question, and then if they didn't like the answer, on Beck's day, ask the same question and see if they could get a different answer. But the interesting thing is with us is there really is it doesn't work. We're kind of like, as you said, a marriage. You referred to us. You know, if Nicole makes a decision on the day, it's the decision we've made. And if I make a decision, Nick respects that decision and we go with that. And so we just always have a united front, total respect for what each other brings and the decisions that each other makes, and the trust 100%.
So has that come through learnings? Like, have you had some situations, I have no doubt that, you know, it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows, where I've heard it before, people shopping around or saying, you know, Nick said this, you know, how about you sign off on that, Beck? Does anything come to mind around challenges that you faced? Or?
Well, one of the things we've got there is we are available to each other basically 24/7.
Okay.
So if there's a really big decision, we would stall for a minute and say, look, you just leave it with me for 5 minutes, and literally send a quick text or a phone call to each other saying, you know what, I've been told that you've agreed to this. It doesn't quite sound right. Is that okay? No, that's not what I said. This is what I said.
Yeah.
The other point, though, is to, again, with that united front, if one of us makes a decision, and sometimes it happens that we don't agree with, we'll have that private conversation about, oh, no, you didn't. You didn't say that we'd do all that. And then, but we, again, to outward facing, we go, yes, that's no problem. Let's get that done. So really respecting, as Beck said, the decision on the day, even if we disagree with it, but again, being open and saying, oh, I don't think you should have said that, or we're quite open really about if we don't agree, but only to ourselves.
Yeah. And then, you know, we learn from that too, because, you know, we all make bad decisions in the workplace, and, you know, you can really reflect. So I guess the other, you know, a massive benefit is that you can be reflective in your workplace, and that, you know, that's proven to be improving productivity and all those sorts of things, that we do have lots of reflective conversations. Yeah,
it sounds like you're both very assertive. So you respect yourself, but then you respect the other person, and you have, you know, it's not a passive, because it could, you know, there's different levels of communication, right? Passive, assertive and aggressive. And so it sounds like you're both sitting in that assertive space where you say, you know what, this is how, you know, I present myself as, you know, an individual, but within this job share pair and within this organisation, which I've no doubt, you know, is sometimes challenging. So starting off, did you have these discussions around boundaries, that I'm available 24/7, text me anytime, or is that just kind of evolved and organically developed?
I think it's evolved organically. Yeah. But then there'll be times where, as we've mentioned, we might work till midnight, and one of us will say to the other, tomorrow I'm taking my kids to the park and I will not be available for 2 hours. If it's urgent, text me and I'll call you back. Yeah. So it's actually quite fluid still, in that those boundaries aren't, I only work these hours, I only work these days. That's there. Yeah. So that's what's funny about that dot point, flexible and having boundaries. So again, just really clearly communicating where we're at personally and what we need to do outside work if needed.
Yeah. And I think it has evolved definitely, Vanessa, because one of the traps that we've fallen into, well, I can only speak for myself, but is you working 3 days, 2 days, whatever it is, but you suddenly find yourself doing the hours of 4 days because you want to do everything. And it's so easy to fall into that trap because you just want to do the best job. So yeah, definitely over the years, we've had to be more, well, I think just continue reassessing the boundaries and continue but really just being open with each other about what we can and can't do.
Do you do like a performance review, you know, every 6 months, sit down and say, how are we going?
No, we just always tell each other we've been awesome.
Yeah. But that's what it's about, isn't it? It's celebrating the wins as they happen and having the hard discussions when you need to, not saving it up.
Yeah, correct. So we would, as you said, we are assertive. We don't get offended by each other's comments, which is funny too. So if there was a performance issue, we would say it. But I think the other thing about job share is you can say to each other, Beck, I'm feeling so low at the moment. I'm feeling really, really down at the moment because of X, Y, Z. And that's where your partner again will will support and pep you up rather than you having to be at work and being quite down yourself as a single unit.
Yeah, and I think that's just made me think of another point, is sort of around ego is really important. And so personally, we celebrate success together. My success is Nicole's success and vice versa. I would never try and claim something as my own, but I would always tell other people when I feel that Nicole has put in more work on something, because, and I think it's a really good tip, is to be your job share partner's biggest cheerleader and advocate behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But no, it's true, because it works. If you can support them, behind the scenes, it's only going to help you, and not to worry about the personal glory. It's about team glory. And that's the way we've always run, is the best outcome for the organisation we'll both take and we'll both celebrate together. Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's so true. But you have to come from a place of strong confidence and self-esteem, don't you, to be able to be someone else's cheerleader. And you guys are living and breathing it. You've been doing it for 5 years now, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing, and the cool thing is that I don't necessarily, you don't need as much kudos when you've got someone that's always doing it for you, Someone's always patting you on the back, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think the other, just to fit that point, the other thing that people ask us all the time is, well, that's all good, but my people have to talk to customers, so it won't work in a job share. And what we've done is it has to be seamless for your customers and for internal people. So, for example, Beck and I have full access to each other's emails, so full access, private appointments, everything. Yeah. And on some occasions with clients, we will answer an email as if we were each other, to have that seamless integration, so that clients, internal people, don't need to think about who's working today, who's not working today. We have full access to each other's systems and emails. Yeah.
And I sometimes see people sign off on their signature block, I only work Mondays, Fridays, and Tuesdays my job share partner. Maybe that works for some people, but for us, being in marketing, we try and make everything seamless. What goes on behind the scenes doesn't matter to our customers and clients. So, that's the way we try and keep it.
And that's the thing, you are in client-facing. You've always been in client-facing roles, so you've lived and breathed it. Yeah. Absolutely. So can I ask you a very practical question? So how do you split the work? So how do you say, right, you do this, I do that? Is there a method?
Look, it depends on the organisation. So in the not-for-profit organisation we worked, it was the level of work there, the intensity of work and the deadlines were such that we actually did exactly the same role.
Okay.
With a handover at the end of every, we'll call it shift, block of days. Other organisation, we've been able to say, okay, if you concentrate on this function of our role, I'll concentrate on this function of our role and do it that way. So it really depends on whether it's deadline-driven work, whether it's more strategic work. Really, what is the driver for the organisation is the answer.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Sure.
And so, for instance, in your role that you're in now, it's more of that strategic type work that you're doing. So it's more for each piece of work, you plan it out.
Yeah. But I mean, in saying that, there's some stuff, if it's deadline driven, we joke, we work in hours, not days. Yeah. So, there is a deadline that Nicole's committed to in the project she's leading with, and she's not there that day. I don't expect her to log on from home. I'll pick it up, and Nicole will tell me. So, we kind of just take it as it comes, I think. But that comes from the experience of working with each other for so long.
Love it. You've got an amazing story. It's a shame that more people, maybe after watching this webinar, we're going to see a big increase. I read less than 1% of people who work flexibly work in job share. So,
oh wow, really? There you go.
Boost those numbers.
Yeah, for sure. So, any other questions you got for us, Vanessa? Where you mentioned that we're here at Rowdy. This is our third job share role. We're working different than we have before in terms of days, but we're still job sharing. and it's great to be in an environment that truly does actually, you know, sometimes they say they're flexible work if you can pick up the kids, but this is a truly flexibly working environment where we can walk out the door and there's no raised eyebrows.
Yes.
So it's really, yeah.
So, yeah, Rowdy, female-owned marketing and advertising agency. I've got that last point there is kids and dogs welcome. So, as Beck said, there's also 3 generations working here at Rowdy. So it really is this beautifully flexible and supportive environment that we have now just settled into and is our home now. It's really, really great to be in that environment where you don't have to pretend you're going to a meeting if you need to get your eyebrows waxed. You can just go.
I love it. And like you said, with all the different generations, everybody's working flexibly for all different reasons, for ages and stages.
Correct.
And it works.
It does. And if you come in here, Vanessa, you've been in here before, you would have seen kids and dogs and all sorts of things in this office. And yeah, it's a nice place to be.
It's a beautiful, beautiful office and beautiful organisation. You have shared with us some amazing tips today. Thank you. And I suppose, you know, for me, looking back on it, you've worked together, you've communicated, you're assertive, you embrace opportunity. And I think what I really took away was you've got this, you don't have expectations of each other. You really agree. You make agreements. And so as a result, you celebrate all of your successes together as a job share pair. It's just an amazing story. So thank you for sharing. And I hope everybody who's listening today that you've taken something away and have some ideas on how to embrace job share in your career.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. Thanks for the
opportunity. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy Flexible Working Day.
And to you too. Thanks, Vanessa.